the Mr. Sports Show on ESPN 94.7. Call the show now at 330-744-0947. Now, here's your host, Mr. Sports.
All right, we're back for the final hour. Ronnie Fantone in the house with me. It is midweek Wednesday. Waiting to hear from JOHN SFERRA, the famed drummer from the band Glass Harp. When you were growing up, because you're an older guy, I'm sure Glass Harp came across,
absolutely,
in their time. I know you served in the Vietnam War. Yeah. Johnny SFERRA in the house today. Hey. What's up, my friend? How are you?
Doing good.
Good.
Enjoying this rainy weather.
Yeah, rainy weather. John, where are you living at these days?
I live in Howland, but I've been staying in East Liverpool last month.
Wow. And do you still keep in touch with Dan Pacquiao and Phil Caggy a lot from Glass Harp?
Sure. Absolutely.
Like every day or every week?
Oh, I'd say like at least once a month.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I've always been very proud of you about is that you've gotten involved with so many local artists around here. And I'll hear it all the time. JOHN SFERRA's playing drums. He's on my backtrack, on my drum track for me. These people love you. They want JOHN SFERRA. You give.
Oh, that's sweet.
No, it's true though. But you give it a credibility and a punch to a lot of these aspiring artists, and I think that's a great thing about you. Have you always been that way and so giving?
Well, I just take it as it comes. Mm-hmm. People come along and we discuss things, and some people want to have me play drums on their recordings and stuff, so I do that. Because there's a definite style the way I play. Mm-hmm. But no, I like local people and working with musicians in the area. Mm-hmm. Although lately I haven't been doing too much because of my age and health. So I've slowed down on all of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of semi-retired.
How old are you now, John, if I could ask?
74 as of May 20th.
And how's life treating you? Everything good?
Things have been okay. I've had some health problems in this last year. Mm-hmm. March 10th, I had a mini stroke.
Oh, boy.
Which kind of set me back. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. What happened, it made me pass out in the bathroom, and I slammed my head on something. So I was in bad shape for a good 2 months.
Wow.
So, but I'm on the better side of that now and recovering and, doing a good job. I had to do some therapy and, get my balance back together again, which has been helpful through the Mercy Health contraction here in Youngstown, so they were really good.
And I would imagine, too, all of the Glass Harp fans worldwide out there and how much they love you. That means a lot, especially when you're going through a situation where you're trying to recover from a stroke.
Well, yeah, it takes a lot of work. It was kind of devastating, to lose the quality of being a precise player, a musician. If I wasn't a musician, I might not have noticed it. Mm-hmm. But because it was a mini stroke, and I didn't lose my speech or anything like that. But the small little movements that it takes to be a musician, it was hard, and it kind of took away a lot of preciseness, which was made me feel bad because most of my life has been spent on developing that precision.
Right. Were there any signs or any warnings? I asked that because seriously, Ron, you sit across from me. You're the same age as John.
Absolutely.
Did anything kind of set you off, like something might be happening here soon?
No. I didn't feel anything. I just bought a new car, and I got that, and I took it to my lady friend's, Heidi's, and we went out to dinner. I showed her the car and everything, and I drove home, and then apparently she couldn't get a hold of me for the next several hours and or day, and so she called and had the sheriff make a wellness check on me, and they had to send the fire department to break in. Here I'd been passed out in my hallway for many hours.
Oh my God!
I passed out in my bathroom. I must have slammed my head on the bathtub or somewhere, and I was out for like a day and a half. They were very close to dying. So I was unresponsive when the fire department got there. But I came through it, and Heidi helped me a lot, and kept me going, for the recovery period. But yeah, it's tough being on your own. You got to be careful.
I would imagine.
What can I say?
Yeah, I would imagine too, and I'd imagine if you smashed your head, there's probably some blood around as well. I could only imagine.
It was bad. It looked like I got beat up, and the stroke was nothing compared to actually whatever I hit. I must have fell on the floor, passed out, tried to get up a couple of times, and fell again. And the full length mirror was broken, and many things were messed up. So I was like, I was unconscious basically, but I heard the phone ringing, and I kept on thinking, oh, that's I better answer that, so Heidi doesn't worry, But anyway, it was crazy. So I spent 4 or 5 days in the hospital.
Unbelievable. And wasn't there also, John, because we're Facebook friends, we've been friends for a long, long time. You were in need of a transplant at one time as well.
Kidney transplant, which didn't work out. The doctors decided that it would be not worth the trouble to do it. It'd be more dangerous to do it because of the condition of my arteries. That it would be more devastating for me to go through. I stayed with the peritoneal dialysis, which I do nightly, and keeps me going. So I've got a lot of problems, but right now it's to the point where I'm just seeing how I can do this. I'm diabetic, taking insulin. I do the peritoneal dialysis at night at home, every night. So I'm keeping going that way, so it's nice.
This isn't the way I planned to start out doing the interview, but you never know what flow and ebb, a conversation is going to take you, and I think that's the one beautiful thing about ad-libbing. Let's talk about your career with Glass Harp. You guys get together, and I know that Phil had been with the Squires, and we talked to Danny Pecchio not long ago on Volume 4, New Hats and Exit, and then the formation of Glass Harp takes place. Did you know that the three of you would create the magic that you did and become iconic in the Valley?
Well, no, absolutely not. But, we were young, and I remember I had met Phil in like 7th or 8th grade. And I had already been playing in the school band and in little combos that we formed around that with quite a bit of people that ended up being semi-famous and in their own right. The whole Cornersburg crew, Tom Manchie, and several other people that ended up making a career out of music. But I had met Phil in 8th grade. He had moved from California, and I knew right away, this guy's real super talented. I've never seen anybody that was as talented as he was, and he was already very professional in 8th grade. And so he had, I thought, well, I want to make music with the likes of Phil, and we became really good friends, and I was fortunate for that. And then later on, we started the band with Steve Marklin on bass, and just 3 of us. And Steve was the cousin of Ting Marklin, the guitarist for the Human Beings. And so we had a good band, started off, and Steve went and joined. I went with the Human Beings, and we ended up getting Dan Pecchio from the Poppy, who we had done double bills with at local places, and we always admired Dan. We thought he was just a really good musician,
incredibly talented,
great voice. Yeah. So it was a good thing. And so we didn't really know, but we ended up forming a nice group, and it caught on. So
it's, to say the least, you do 3 albums. Its first is self-titled Glass Harp. And then you get a recording contract with Decca. I mean, Decca was a big label at the time, which was really neat. It would take you on. It would take you, although the band's career was brief as Glass Harp, it would take you on some extraordinary places. An album you would later release live at Carnegie Hall, where you guys performed alongside the Kinks at one time. You actually opened for them. Dan came on the air and said the Davies brothers weren't very nice to Glass Harp back in the day.
They were, elitist rock and rollers. So, we tried to be friends with them, and it was like they had other things to do, So, didn't hang out in their dressing room too long. I know Phil wanted to tell Ray Davies that he admired his guitar playing all his life, but we never got a chance to talk with them. They had us removed from the dressing room.
Unbelievable.
But, they didn't know.
Also, Traffic, Steve Winwood, Dave Mason, Glass Harp had a cross with that band as well. Any memories about Traffic?
Yeah, we opened for them at, I don't know if it was Cleveland Public Hall. Yeah.
Okay.
And we opened for the Low Spark of High-Heeled Boys group. And there was 3 of them. They had Rebop Kwakuba on congas and Rick Gretsch on bass, but Jim Gordon on drums. But it was beyond the 3 of them. And it was great. We spent the whole day there and did our sound checks and shared dressing rooms. And I remember I sent someone to get some beer, and they ended up stealing it from their dressing room, from Traffic's dressing room. So it was like some kind of special beer, too. And I'm sitting there drinking, I think, and one of them come up and said, "Hey, that's my beer." And I said, "Oh, great." But it was really, really unique experience. And those guys, of course, they were heroes at that point of all of us. And it was just really wonderful to see them perform and do sound checks and just be people backstage,
You talked about your own unique style of drumming. I guess I would categorize my other friend that's a great drummer, Patsy Palumbo from Left End. He had his own unique style of drumming. Who were the influences on you? I talked to my buddy Jeff Richards, who toiled in drumming in bands in the 70s and 80s, and he didn't hesitate when I asked him. He said, Buddy Rich. He said, Buddy Rich was my guy. And he goes, that's what got me into wanting to be a drummer. Who would it be for JOHN SFERRA?
Oh, yeah, Buddy Rich is, incredible. I mean, is wonderful. But at that time, when I was younger, Buddy Rich was from big bands.
Right.
And I wasn't so much into big bands or jazz when I was a teenager. I didn't get into that until I was much older. But I liked the popular drummers of the day, it first started off when I was very small, when I was like 9 or 7 or so, when that was Gene Krupa, and before that was Sandy Nelson, who was a pop type of a drummer,
Teen Beat
back in the 50s, and I thought that was wonderful, I thought that was great. But then as I got older, I liked, of course, the drummer for Cream. I forget his name right now, Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
And he was really influential. And Mitch Mitchell's the drummer for the Jimi Hendrix Experience. He was very influential at that time. This is the music I was listening to.
Right.
And I thought it was great. And I'm a synthesis of those drummers and many others. I like a lot of the great players, Steve Gadd and all that. But basically, my style is like a blend of all those together. And, of course, Ringo and the Beatles.
Exactly.
The Beatles recordings were incredible to me. I mean, I learned to play originally from turning up my hi-fi with the first Beatle albums that my sisters had. And I played, my drum set was downstairs with the hi-fi, cranked that thing up, learned all the Ringo parts, and so, and a lot of that was studio magic, the different compression and reverbs they would put in the drums, and I tried to emulate that without electronics. I mean, just on my set, down there. So I would beat hard or whack on the sides of it and everything, trying to get that sound, or those different sounds that they would get for the recordings, which are just filled with all kinds of innovative drum sounds.
A couple legendary drummers come to mind. I just want to get your thoughts on it. Neil Peart with Rush and John Bonham with Zeppelin.
They're the best.
Yeah.
They made songs out of their drums. You know, I mean, what they played, the hook lines they played were incredible, and they made the song unique and memorable. You know, a lot of John Bonham stuff and a lot of Neil Peart things that they would do just were identified the song, you know, for what it was. And
you hear about a legendary drummer taken from us far too early in 1978, Keith Moon of The Who. What were your thoughts on Keith?
Yeah. Keith was great, another innovative person. You know, definitely a free spirit on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And he played a lot of beats, a lot of things on the records that really set them apart. And you know, what he played was as important as the guitar parts. You know,
Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones.
Another great one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did so many nice hooks on the songs and doing the studio work that he made the song stand out just for that. You know, even beyond the vocal or the guitar part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so very nice, a lot of good stuff there.
What would you say, and especially coming from you, it would mean a lot. What would you say, recording-wise, something a tune that would be familiar to a lot of people now would be the definitive ultimate drum solo? I mean, every time you never get sick of hearing it. It's like, oh my God, that is so darn good.
I mean, like there's millions of them, but I guess a lot of stuff John Bonham did on his solos. A lot of stuff that Ginger Baker did
with Cream. Yep.
He had a unique style that was, you know, really stood out at the time. So yeah, I mean, it's just too many to even think of.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hey, we've got the legendary drummer for the band Glass Harp, John SFERRA, the Mr. Sports Show. Come back with more of John after these messages. We're talking to John SFERRA for the band Glass Harp over here a little bit today. Hey, John, we were talking off air. You and Ron, you were talking about the same thing. Ron found a girl named Mary Ellen that changed his life. You were married to a lady named Valerie for 26 years. Unfortunately, you lost her back in 2006. But fortunately for you, you had someone named Heidi come into your life, and that's been about a 20-year relationship. Heidi has been very, very helpful for you, hasn't she?
Well, yeah, she helped me get through the death of my wife Valerie, and like I said, we were together for 20 years, and then recently with the health problems, she's stuck by me and kept me healthy, got me back on my feet again, because I did have a mild stroke, but even worse than that was the actual, when I passed out in my bathroom, I must have slammed all kinds of things.
Right.
But yeah, Heidi just did a good job and stood by me, and which I'll be forever grateful, and feeling a lot better than I was, say, 2 months ago.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I had a hard time getting around. My balance was affected really bad, and so it was pretty close. Got really close to dying there.
Well, we're glad you're still around, Johnny. People love you, and you're definitely an icon. Strings Attached.
Yes.
And I had a little bit to do with that, but when
you did.
Well,
absolutely.
Glass Harp hadn't sung in Youngstown for years because Phil went the Christian route. And then Strings Attached happened, and you're playing with the Youngstown Symphony Orchestra. And this is in 2000, right? I think it was in 2000. I forget. Years kind of flying. And it was sold out, and it was a who's who concert. Were you nervous because you guys were an all-out live jam extended band playing with the symphony orchestra behind you? What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, you know, it was it was a little bit nerve-wracking because it was something really different, and we had to be a lot more precise in what we were doing. We couldn't ad-lib constantly, you know, like we did, but which we ended up doing some ad-libbing anyway. But it was nerve-wracking at first, you know, working it out. We had some rehearsal time. And we had some preparation time, and a lot of that was like how is this going to work out?
Yeah,
I mean, really. But it went smooth, and we couldn't have asked for a better evening of music than what we ended up doing, and working with the symphony orchestra and you guys, and with Isaiah Jackson.
Yeah,
it really went smooth, and of course, Phil and Daniel were excellent. And I think we all did a good job that night.
I thought you did a phenomenal job, and in fact, the recordings are still available from a live performance. Were you during that performance, and the symphony behind you, and you're playing with your brothers again on stage after all of those years? After all, I believe it had been since 1972, some almost 30 years that you guys had performed in front of a live crowd in Youngstown. Did you ever catch yourself during that moment looking at the crowd, looking at your brothers, looking at the symphony and saying, oh my God, this is surreal. I cannot believe I'm in this scene?
Absolutely. I mean, it was crazy. I was full of joy doing it, and I think we all had a great feeling being together and doing that. So I think that helped a lot, having a really good attitude about it. And I think the generosity of Phil and Daniel, we all, felt really good together doing that. So I think that's why it went smooth. And everybody that was involved in that production was really positive.
When you look back and you reflect on your incredible musical career, how much regret might be in the mind of JOHN SFERRA, considering what Glass Harp might have been had they stayed together and Phil not pursued a Christian rock career? I'm sure that's crossed your mind.
Oh, absolutely. But I wonder what the outcome would have been if Phil would not have pursued the Christian life, and we would have been subject to all the things, the harrowing bows and arrows of public life,
right?
And living, being out in California or being in New York, and being subjected to everything,
right?
And so I wonder how things would have turned out. I wonder.
Well, if you think about it, it was the onset, everybody thinks of the 70s as disco. I think, disco was prominent in the 70s, but I also think of the great soul music in that decade. But it was also the decade of arena rock, and you had rock and roll acts. You had Grand Funk Railroad, you had Aerosmith, you had groups at Kansas, you had groups that were up and coming, and I call it arena rock. And a lot of that was prevalent in the 70s, and I think Glass Harp could have been right there with all of those bands.
We could have been close. We could have been in the Grand Funk Railroad type thing. But who knows? We ended up, we got a lot of good music out of it, so it was worth it.
But your touch on this story, somebody, when I talked to Dan, well, I can't believe you didn't bring it up. Well, it's been told over and over. The Johnny Carson Tonight Show rumor, supposedly Jimi Hendrix was on, and Carson looked at Hendrix and said, who's the best guitar player in the world? He goes, I don't know, you'd have to ask Phil Keggy. That one's taken on like an almost cult-like following, certainly locally. It's never been proven or disproven, but, Phil's kind of humble about it because I don't think he ever really said that, but that's what the whole Valley talks about. And you guys have lived with that for all of these decades. But I love it. I think it's a great story.
It's a great story. I don't think he said that. I think he said it about somebody else. But, I've seen so many old Johnny Carson shows that this is the one that he says it in, but of course it never came through. I remember way back when we were doing our first album or second album, our manager came and said, hey, there's a rumor going around that Hendrix said that Phil was, this and that. And he says, well, don't deny it. I said, okay. And this is elevator talk, So I think it was spread by our manager.
That's pretty cool, though. But was there not a true story? And if I recall, and I'm getting up there too. I thought I recalled some Cleveland history book where Ted Nugent might have been with the Amboy Dukes at one time. And he stopped an interview session, went over and looked and heard Phil Keggy playing guitar. There's truth to that, I believe, though.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It might be. I know we opened for Ted Nugent several times.
When he was with the Amboy Dukes or when he was solo?
I think both.
Okay.
But I think when he was solo, because the Premier Talent Agency was the booking agent for Alice Cooper and for us and Humble Pie. So we ended up opening up for a lot of different groups like that. Yes, and because talent agency worked together and they'd book us in different places, together.
I recall seeing an interview with Ray Manzarek, the keyboard player for The Doors, and he said, I'd have my head buried in the keyboard. Well, Morrison, the front guy, was a little bit nuts. He would go off on tangents. Phil wasn't crazy like that, but Phil, when you guys would do live performances, weren't there times it was impromptu and ad-libbed up there, and Phil would decide to extend the jam, and you guys got to follow along, right?
Oh yeah, that was what was magical. Phil would do that, and then Daniel and I would follow along, like you said, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun to do that, and we would do shows where we would say, "Let's start." And do a medley of all our songs.
Wow!
And never stop playing, and see what would happen. And so we would do that, and we were very much into that, and orchestrations and stuff like that. But yeah.
Johnson.
Oh, speaking of
go ahead.
The Doors, another Cornersburg person. The drummer for The Doors was from Cornersburg, Ohio, in Youngstown.
Oh wow! I was not aware of that.
Yeah, John Densmore.
Johnny Densmore, yeah.
So he was from Cornersburg, and as well as Myron Grumbacher, of course. Myron lived real close.
Yeah, Myron caught on with Pat Benatar.
Right. Fantastic. That was really great. So a lot of us Cornersburg kids were musicians.
I didn't know Densmore. I always thought he was a California guy. I wasn't aware of that. Wow, that's see, I learned something myself. Hang on for us, yeah. John Sfera on the telephone from Glass Harp. Ron Fantone and I back with more following these messages.
Right now, 82.
82 degrees, Fantone. How about that? Yikes.
Wow, nice.
Hey, we're talking to John Sfera, Glass Harp. Overcame a very scary physical episode recently, and we're glad to have John with us because I was telling John this, Ron. We were talking about it off air. Even if he hadn't been in Glass Harp, he's such a great guy. He has so many friends out there. A lot of people didn't know John had gone through this. I didn't know about a lot of this. And to learn that this morning, it's like, God was on your side, brother. And I know how deeply religious Glass Harp has always been. You guys, your faith is second to none, this band.
Absolutely. I mean, without faith in the Lord, it would be hard to exist. And it's got us through a lot of different things, professionally and personally, like we were just talking about.
Right.
So you can't do it alone.
It was a handful of years ago, I recall. Was it a PBS special that Glass Harp did? And you guys were all jamming live. Was that what it was? I was watching the video.
Oh yeah.
It had been a number of years. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a simulcast, one of the first simulcasts in the country, and we did. There was on FM, Cleveland station, and the National Public, the PBS in Cleveland, Channel 25. So it was kind of interesting to do it that way. We ended up doing it at the studios in Cleveland.
Wow.
And I think we were on our way home from a recording session, maybe the second or third album. And we had our sound the sound engineer from the studios with us. We were taking him back to Cincinnati. He was coming from New York with us. And we ended up doing that show. We set up, and he set up, did the sound, and connect up with the radio station and with the public television station. And it ended up being really nice. And then I think in 2000, we ended up getting a copy of it from PBS and was released.
That's when I think I first saw it. And again, a little bit of a vague recall in there, but I'm like, look at these guys. They were all in their prime, all young. You guys all had hair.
Very young.
Yeah. I always thought that Glass Harp looked like the Beatles. I always thought you guys looked like the Beatles. There was a resemblance there.
I think everybody looked like the Beatles in those days.
Yeah, well, maybe so.
We had some real long hair, yeah. And that was like the White Album period where the hippies took over.
Let's talk about fond venues that you got to play at. Before we get into the local aspect of it, I know JB's in Kent, Ohio was a big venue for the band Glass Harp back in the day.
I think we were playing there at our heyday. We were doing like 3 nights a week at JB's. Wednesdays, Sundays, and Saturdays, I think. Maybe twice a week, but yeah, we built a lot of our music there, playing there, because we would sound check in the afternoon, rehearse down there, and then play that night for 3 or 4 hours. So a lot of our jamming and a lot of songwriting happened at JB's.
And how many people were coming out to these shows? Do you recall? Was it thousands of kids?
Well, JB's couldn't hold 1,000, but it was packed when we played. You know, it was really packed. It would have been packed anyway.
You guys were a big draw.
Before that was the James Gang.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh and the James Gang was holding down those nights. Mm-hmm. And by the time we moved in, they had a recording contract, and then we came after them with a recording contract. But we played a couple years there by ourselves.
Yeah, I think of great songs like, Funk 49 and Walk Away, and James Gang was just so legendary. They had so many personnel changes throughout the course of that band's history. Joe Walsh, you mentioned him with the James Gang. Was there any correlation that you personally had with Joe?
Other than that, we opened several times for him at JB's and different places. And I think Phil and him were pretty good friends. I didn't do too much talking with Joe at that time. Although I did have him tune my new Martin guitar in 1970 when I first bought it.
I love it. So, how about the Youngstown venues? What stands out that you could never forget back in the days of Glass Harp?
Oh, God. Well, I remember I forget the guy's name, but he had several clubs in town. The Freak Out was one of them.
We always hear about the Apartment and Freak Out, yeah.
And the Apartment, right?
Yeah.
So that was when I was very young, and I don't think I was even the drinking age then. I was still playing. But he had the clubs and we played them. We did a lot of Glass Harp at that time. Did a lot of afternoon shows for the teeny boppers.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of our popularity locally.
How about? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about the Idora Park Ballroom, because usually every band that goes back long enough to remember it will bring at least one story about that ballroom up.
Oh yeah. Well, we used to play there when we do the afternoon shows, and then we did a couple nighttime shows, and Boots Bell was the MC. In fact, that's where we were discovered by our manager from Cleveland, Chip Killinger. He came out to see Phil at Idora Park Ballroom to ask if Phil would be interested in joining a group with Joe Vitale from Canton. And Chip had been managing his band. And so Phil said, no, I got my own band. These guys are great, So, and then Chip was interested in us after that, and ended up actually getting us the Decca contract. But,
when Glass Harp disbanded and Phil went off to seek the solo Christian rock career, what was going through your mind personally, John SFERRA? You're still a young guy. Are you like, oh my God, what do I do with myself now? What was your immediate move, and what ended up happening with you?
Oh, well, in those days, I was young and invincible. So, I mean, I felt whatever, that Phil needed to do this for his own self. And that's, how I felt a little bit different at that time. I was a devout Catholic all my life.
Okay.
And at that point, I started looking at religion as being a little bit, hey, it's a little shaky here.
Yeah.
These people believe all these different things, and maybe I don't believe that. And Phil was getting into the more fervent Pentecostal movement at the time, and but I felt that he should do what he's called to do, and go with his feelings on these things. And that's pretty much the way I felt. And I thought, well, I'll carry on, play music and keep on doing what I was doing. But a little did I know, what the future was going to hold. And Glass Harp actually did more later on, like 1998 through 2000. We did a lot of shows and a lot of reunions together. So we ended up spending the longest lived band I've ever seen.
Wow.
For breaking up in the 70s.
Dan Pecchio, following the breakup of Glass Harp, hooks up with the Michael Stanley Band. Now, and Phil goes solo. Did you feel like, okay, John SFERRA, I'm also, I'm a big part of this band too. Did that add to the pressure? It's like, okay, I've really got to go do my own thing now because they're doing it.
I don't know. I was pretty relaxed about the whole thing. I was asked to join to be with Michael Stanley. When Dan first got with him, they asked me, and I turned it down at the time. I said, well, I think I want to do something different than that. And so, but there was a little bit of pressure there for a little while, but not very long.
Boy, I did not know that you had said no to drumming with the Michael Stanley Band.
Well, it was really early on, and I just wanted to do something a little different.
Okay. And, John, I'll tell you, when you look at your career and all of the legends that you got to play beside, and we mentioned some of them, the Kinks who weren't very nice to you guys, the bands, were there any other bands or people that Glass Harp personally got to know, and it's like, you know what, those guys are cool, and I'm glad I got to know them a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody stand out for you?
Well, right now I'm thinking of Humble Pie. And we played a lot of dates with them in the States.
Was Frampton there then?
Frampton was with them. Steve Marriott.
Wow.
Frampton was very young then, and he was having a hard time being away from his family and his girlfriend and being over here in the States touring so much. And we were doing quite a few dates with them. Like I said, they had the same booking agent as we did. So they combined us a lot of different shows together. But, they were good people, and we had a good time with them. They were very friendly toward us, and they weren't elitist, so it was fun.
And I always thought Steve Marriott as a lead vocalist, and I told Danny this too, he's so underrated. Go back and listen to his vocalship in some of the classics. I don't need no doctor! I mean, it's great stuff. Thunderbox. There's a song called Thunderbox, I think. I mean, he just wails, man. I mean, he's got that kind of voice. Just
I remember back in the old days when we would open for them, we were amazed that because we would hear Steve Marriott singing without the microphone. He didn't even need a microphone.
Right.
It was a powerhouse for sure.
Wow. John's solo album is Glass Harp Band Camp, Northbound. So can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, Northbound was a collection of songs that I had for a while. And the recording engineer at Toontown Recording in Newton Falls, who was a premier recording studio in this area, and he said, well, let's get it together. And Neil Williams, who had been a Glass Harp aficionado for a long time, he said, you really have to do something with all these songs you have. You record. I put them on little bits of tape and stuff. And so we ended up doing it, and that was like 1996. So it's a state of the art, at that time. And I had those guys on my team, and Gus, Dennis Augusta on keyboards. And we all got together and put together, get my songs together. And what I had there, and we recorded Northbound.
One of my greatest media buddies of all time, Ron, you're definitely one of them. I've told you that. Bob Hanna would be another. Scott Kennedy, I can never tell the story without Scott being part of my Give Me a Break. We had some incredible magic together. Smoking Bill Cannon. Smoking Bill, legendary with Hot 101, he thought the world of you. We used to talk about you on the telephone for, John, like a half an hour. John SFERRA was there. That meant so much, his friendship to you. We had a picture with the Old Hotel California. I would say it was around 2015 or so. It's me, Smoke, and John, Smoking Bill, and John SFERRA all together. And Smoke was in his glory that day. Dude, he loved you.
We were good friends, and I remember back in the day, way back in the early 80s, I used to always ask Smoke if he wanted to come up and play bass. And I think he knew one song at the time. I used to bring him up on stage, and we play, I forget what, Smoke on the Water.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
We got to be really good friends, and it was a joy, and he certainly is missed.
Yeah, definitely. 2015. It's one of those things, too, John. You talk about your health. I've been talking to him shortly before that, and he goes, John, and he had that voice. He goes, I just went to the doctor today, and I had a checkup. I said, is everything okay, buddy? And he said, well, I have a different widowmaker. My heart doesn't work like most people, but they assured me I'm completely fine. 2 weeks later, he's helping a neighbor move a coffee table who collapsed in the front yard of a heart attack. So I never take anything for granted after I'll never forget that. So, John SFERRA, Glass Harp, thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you, John.
Well, you're welcome.
All right. And
nice talking with you guys.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a break. We've got about 10 minutes left. We'll try to finish up the year 1973. That was a good one with John SFERRA of Glass Harp. We're back with the last few minutes of the